Hello, my name is Moses Udolphia, and with the current wave, I've been having a whole lot of questions. So, how do I build my CGPA? How do I get a good CGPA and all? So, in this video, I'll be showing you how to do that. I'll be showing you how I got a 4.92 out of a 5.0 CGPA. Although I needed a 5.0 CGPA, but let's leave that. Let's leave that. I did my best. You can agree with me with that. So, building a good CGPA, how do you begin? You have to find out what drives you. Why are you here? Why do you think you need a good CGPA? And what do you aim to achieve? What is that one thing that gets you out of bed each day? Excellence is something that starts from the mind. And for you to succeed, you need to have a drive. When people ask me, what was your motive? What was your drive? What kept you going even when you faced hard times? I'd often tell them I come from a very low profile background, and in my background, it's actually very difficult for people to thrive. I don't have the name that can work for me. I don't have family assets that would make me better or that would make me more successful. When education presented itself to me, I looked at it and I said, I must make the best out of this. For me to earn a seat at the table of prominence, I needed to make education work for me. So my background stimulated me. My background was my drive to excellence. In whatever you're doing, in the academic field, in your career, whichever field, whatever way, wherever you find yourself, you need to have a drive. You need to have something that stimulates you internally. External motivation lasts but a while. You need something to move you, something to push you when others are not clapping for you, something to move you, something to keep you going when the going gets tough. Find that. Find that one thing. Find that one thing. And I'm certain you'll be glad you did. Set clear goals. When you've gotten this drive, because without the drive, you can never make it. Billionaires, millionaires, people that are successful, they have one single secret. They have a drive. Now, once you find out what your drive is, the next thing you have to do is to set clear goals. Your goals should not be stuck in your head. Don't say, I want to get this, I want to get this, I want to do this, I want to do this. If you never write them down, those ideas, those thoughts are as good as nothing. When the semester begins, write down what you want to achieve each semester. I go a step further, not just write down what I want to achieve. I prepare a prospective result sheet. What I want my result to look like at the end of the semester. You have to be intentional about this. You have to write it down. Let these goals stare at you face to face. I used to write my goals and I paste them on the wall of my room or at the back of my door. So that when I'm sleeping, there's the last picture in my mind is the goals. When I look at my wall, the last picture on my mind is the goals before I get to bed. So set clear goals. Once you've done that, gather all study materials that you need. Source for reading materials from your senior colleagues, source for materials, get past questions, and make sure you tailor your readings towards your past question. Preparation is key, so never set out to study without having the right materials you need. Before you start studying, get all the materials. So what I used to do when I was a student is I had a senior colleague, and each time, each semester, I would often keep a tab on the senior colleague. You know, most of these materials are sent in PDF formats and all. So at the end of the exams, your senior colleagues are likely to delete those materials. So what I do is I keep a tab on her and I tell her, please, whenever they send any material to your class, please send it to me. So what I do is I take the materials and I save them in my phone so that when I get to that level, when I get to that semester, I already have all these materials intact. So gather all study materials that you need. Gather as many as possible. Now, once you've done this, you create a study timetable. List out all the courses you have for the semester. List them all out. It is not just about having a drive or setting clear goals or gathering materials. It's about the path to which you will be able to actualize what you want. So create a study timetable. List out all the courses you have for that semester and be very honest with yourself. Identify the courses that you have strength in and the ones you might be weak at. Personally, I don't like theory courses. I don't like it at all. But I just try as much as possible to read them and to allocate more time to them on my timetable. So if you have a timetable, do not allocate more time to courses that you have strength in. Allocate more time to those courses that you are weak at. I don't know if you understand that. So if you are very good with calculation, allocate less time to calculation on your timetable. Then if you are poor or you are weak at theory courses, allocate more time to those theory courses. Be intentional on the time you allocate on your timetable to study. So what most of us do is just that we just write the time, make the timetable, we write, okay, I want to read this, I want to read that. You don't allocate time to it. It is called a timetable. It means in addition to having your courses listed there, you have to have the time you need to study. You have to be intentional about the time you need to study. Lastly, never go to bed without planning your day. So, for instance, most students, they just go to sleep and they're like, when I wake up, I want to read this, I want to read that. For instance, when you wake up, you want to read economics, for instance. But you've made a total mistake. When you wake up, you become entirely distracted. You don't know what to read in the economics. So what you have to do is before you go to bed, plan your day. If you're going to wake up in the middle of the night to read, write on a piece of paper, oh, this is what I want to do. I want to read economics. Now, you're not just reading economics. You're going to pick out a topic you want to read in economics. So you could say, okay, I want to read economics. In economics, I want to read demand and supply. Now, when you wake up, you already have a focus. You already have a direction. You already have where you are going to. You already have what you are supposed to do. So it becomes much more easier. Now, the next step is develop a reading pattern. I used to tell people there is no one study pattern. No one study pattern can fit everybody. Now, personally, I had 3 reading stages. The first reading stage. Now, in this first reading stage, what do? I run through the entire material. So during holidays, when we are on break, when we have ended the semester, after I've gotten all the materials that I need, I would go through these materials. I would scan through them, not for recalling sake, just to get acquainted with the material. Now, once I've done this for 2 to 3 weeks, I will begin the second reading stage. Now, in the second reading stage, I read before classes. And then I download YouTube videos, I download other materials to gain more understanding of the course concept. So now in the first one I was scanning, in the second one I am becoming more intentional about knowing what the course content entails. I am going just beyond the material I have. I am sourcing for other sources to gain better understanding. In my third reading stage, I start reading for the purpose of teaching. So let me go back to the second reading stage. In the second reading stage, I'll always read before going to class. So that when the lecturer is there in class, I already know what he's coming to do. And my understanding that the lecturer's teaching, we are correct, we are at par. We are in a linear relationship. So he's saying something, I am gaining better understanding. Where I had issues in understanding a particular concept, I bring out knowledgeable questions. You can never ask knowledgeable questions except you have gone through a particular material once before the class. So in my third reading stage, this is basically towards exams. I start reading for the purpose of teaching. So I actually love teaching. I taught my coursemates for 4 years in the university, 4 to 5 years in the university. So what I do is in my third reading stage, after I've gained the understanding in the second reading stage, I go to the third reading stage and I start teaching people. But before I start teaching people, what I do is during my second reading stage, I would get a piece of paper, maybe a 20-leaf exercise book. I'll use it to write out key points, focus key points, focus key points. I'll jot them down. And during the third reading stage, I would use it to teach. I use my scrap notes to teach during the third reading stage. And I use it also to solve as many past questions as possible. So you see, my reading pattern might be different from yours, but try as much as possible to develop your reading pattern. Now, the most important strategy or the most important reading technique is repetition. Repetition is the best reading technique from my point of view, because when you do something once, second, twice, third, it sinks. It literally sinks. It sinks. You can recall. You can recall. Now, my recalling technique was just my third reading stage. So when I do the first and the second, I don't try to remember those things at all. So it's my third reading stage that I try to recall. My recalling technique is teaching. So you might not be able to teach like me, but you could practice reciting what you've learned looking into a mirror. Yes, you could just get a mirror in your room and talk to yourself and see how much you can recall when you're done reading. Now, the next thing is always attend classes because it is in class you get to know which areas are more likely to pop up in your exams. That is the simplest cheat code. That is the simplest cheat you need to pass an exam successfully and get that A grade. Attend classes. Listen to the emphasis, the topic that the lecturer is emphasizing on the most. When you do that, you'll be able to know where to read, what to read, and how to go about it. And then you must pay strict attention while in class, especially if you've read the topic before and have a faint idea about it. Don't get carried away. So most times I think I'm guilty of that. So when I've immersed myself in my first and second reading stage and I've read something and I go to class, most times the class becomes very dull and I kind of tune out from the class and start making noise. You get so I think it cost me something. It cost me a whole lot. It cost me a B. Cost me a B. So please, no matter your level of understanding, no matter how far you've gone in a particular course, try as much as possible to pay strict attention in the class. Finally, prayer is the key. Sum up all these steps to God in prayer. Believe and trust the process. Make a commitment to God. See, the exchange principle still works. You cannot expect God to give you something and not work for it. You cannot expect God to give you something when you've not given him something in return. Even if you've given God something in return, you have to work towards it. You have to work towards your faith. You have to trust the process and believe in it. So these are my few reading techniques, or how would I put it? These are the few ways I think you would be able to build a standout CGPA. So if you have any, if you are confused about something or you want to gain more understanding about a particular slide I shared, you could just comment below. Thank you very much. See you next time. This is the Excellence Room, and I am Moses Udolphia. Bye.